Okay, all right. You look familiar to me. All right, so I am Tina Horlocker, and this event is the Davis County Conservatives, and we meet the second and fourth Thursday of every month except for July and December. And we have community forums where we are educating and informing people what's going on in our community and just about important things that people need to know. We are always trying to get the word out, so if you would please tell your friends, your neighbors about what we're doing. We want to have this whole church filled. And let's start with a prayer before I say anything more. We're going to have the prayer by Janice Martin. Kavanaugh.
Our dear Father in heaven, we're very thankful we can be here together and for the presentation that's been set up for us, and we ask that thy Spirit will be here with us and that thou will help us to learn those things that will be helpful for us in our daily lives and that we can apply these things and have success with them. We ask thy blessings be upon each of us and our families and upon our nation and upon our county and state. We ask that thou will help us to travel home safely when the time's over, and that thy Spirit will be here in great abundance. And these things we ask in the name of thy Son, Jesus Christ. Amen.
All right, so going back to just about the Davis County Conservatives, we actually are a PAC, a political action committee. So along with informing the community, another function we have is to look for people to run for political office. That includes mayors, county commission, legislators, all positions. We are constantly looking for good people to fill political positions and positions of leadership. So if you have any ideas, I will specifically say we are looking for to fill county commission seats, county auditor, county, what's the other one? Clerk, county clerk. So if you know people that are qualified for those positions, please let us know. So the third reason that we are in existence is to mobilize people. So often there are reasons to get people together for a cause. And I want to just ask, how many of you happen to be state delegates? Okay. So not this Saturday, but the coming Saturday, we have the organizing convention for the Utah GOP. And that's a really important convention. So those of you who are state delegates, make sure you please attend and stay the whole time. I forgot the Pledge of Allegiance. So let's say the Pledge of Allegiance, but I do want to say, before we say the Pledge of Allegiance, when we get to one nation, rather than say one nation under God, let's say one nation under God. Okay. Okay, please stand. Okay. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. So for this evening, we are having Daniel Jenkins speak to us. We are passing around an email. I'll let Brian say.
So I'm going to feel a little like standard procedure. So because we are a PAC and we are trying to fund candidates and help get our name in places, people, for example, the GOP state convention here in a week and a half. We are going to pass the can around asking for money. Find environment, we have you here. If you'd like to sign up for our email list, we're also going to pass around a clipboard. Name, email, phone number for text. Find. We're also passing around a flyer with the clipboard. So later this month, on May 31st, we're going to have our first of 3 movie fundraising events at the Kaysville Theater. We're going to be featuring the original trilogy of Star Wars, starting with Episode 4, A New Hope. Then 2 weeks later, on June 14th, we'll have The Empire Strikes Back. 2 weeks after that, on June 31st, we'll have The Return of the Jedi. Tickets will be $7. Huh? June 28th, sorry. Tickets will be $7, and each ticket will include one ticket for a raffle, be entered into a raffle drawing. If you have families or groups of 4 or more, we are offering tickets at $6 a piece. And if you would like to purchase additional raffle tickets, they are $1 a piece. So we do have a QR code where you can go and sign up for tickets and then get the Venmo link to pay for the tickets. Sure. Yeah, yes. Every ticket that you buy comes with a raffle ticket already. So it's not one per purchase, it's one for each ticket. So. No, that's fine. You have a question too, Ben? No, you were just pointing for her. Okay, thank you.
All right. So I will also add that we do stream this event. So our last event was viewed 500 times. So this might seem small, but a lot of people do watch our events. So tonight we have Daniel Jenkins, who is going to be addressing us. And I will tell you, the way I came to Daniel Jenkins was a little bit of a miracle, because I was trying to get William DeMille to come. He's a master gardener. I mean, he probably has a different title than that, but he gardens in a way that he doesn't use chemicals. And he lives like 4 hours away. And finally we decided it was not going to work with his schedule. And so then I was looking for someone else, and I came across Daniel and found out that he actually worked with William and knows exactly what William teaches and has even added on to that. So we're going to turn the time over to Daniel Jenkins. Thank you.
Yeah, filling William's shoes is really hard, so I'm going to try. How close? That good? I don't know if I will. I might be agitated. Ow. Guess that could work. I could see that working. Well, so I'm Daniel Jenkins. I've actually been gardening, farming for quite a while. I interned at William's farm when he was in Oregon for 6 months. Learned a ton of stuff from him. And that was like, 15 years ago. Crazy. It's been a while. So since then, I have learned a lot of stuff from many other mentors as well. So I've taken a course from Dr. Elaine Ingham. I've become a lab tech, so I can identify, count, all that kind of stuff, microbes in the soil with a microscope. Really cool stuff. Yeah. So if you so desire, I do have the capabilities. Then I've also taken courses from like Matt Powers. I don't know if you guys have heard of him, Matt Powers. He's actually pretty cool. He took Elaine Ingham's stuff and went even further with like, because Elaine Ingham, his organization, he has a couple of different websites. If you look up Matt Powers permaculture, Matt, M-A-T-T-P-O-W-E-R, Powers. Yeah. Permaculture Student is the book, one of the first books he wrote. Anyway, permaculture is a background that I have as well. So permaculture is a design science that is mimicking nature. So I like to look at how nature works, and then I like to implement things that will make it better, right? Piggyback off of nature. So those are some of my backgrounds. Done a lot of stuff. I did a market garden for 6 years. Sold to restaurants and to farmers markets. Did lots of lettuce and tomatoes. I had 70 varieties of tomatoes. It was amazing. All heirlooms. So I like things like that. So during this whole time, I was always wondering what makes soil fertile, right? Early on, when I was learning about gardening and stuff, I worked with a guy that was just doing the backyards and stuff, and he was doing it pretty conventionally. And like nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium, all those minerals and stuff is what you usually get told is what you need to put on your garden or your lawn. And once I learned about permaculture and realizing that nature doesn't add those things mechanically like we are. Like, where are they getting? Where's nature getting those things? And why would we want to do it any different than nature? So I went through a whole, the last 10 years I've been learning about what fertility is. So to begin with, this is the soil food web, or a diagram of some soil food web. This is the foundation of soil fertility. It's life, microbes. So you can see you have plants, you have the root exudates, you have microbes. The pink with it's bacteria and fungus. Those are the base microbes. They're the ones that are breaking down things. You have to have them, right? Good nutrient cycling has predators that will eat those. You have the protozoa, you have flagellates, you have nematodes, and then you have different kinds of nematodes as well. I don't know if you guys have heard of nematodes before. Sometimes the gardening and farming section, they talk about like the root-feeding nematodes and stuff, and they're always bad. And well, the root-feeding nematodes are bad, but they're a small percentage of what's out there. All the other ones are eating fungus or bacteria or other nematodes, actually. So, very cool. The soil food web has to function in order for the soil to actually function. So yeah, well, next slide. Sure. Yeah. Oh yeah, so the different types of nematodes, I kind of talked about that, but you have the bacteria feeders, the fungal feeders, and omnivores. So if you don't have microbes eating other microbes, you don't have nutrients being unlocked, because if a bacteria eats something, it keeps that stuff in its body, right? So you have to break it up a little bit. And that's where you get like cycling and stuff. Next slide. These are the amoebas. Some of these are like the bottom left side. Those are in microscopes. Some of them, I actually think the 3D one is like an electronic microscope. Pretty cool stuff. They actually like plate it with silver, I think. Some of their metal, and then they take a picture of it. Cool. Amoebas are they're one of the powerhouses that eat and cycle a lot of bacteria. So if you see those in your soil, it's a good thing. Oddly enough, they kind of look like white blood cells. So there's actually something that I've learned, I've been noticing. The microbes in your body, the microbes in the soil, are very similar. In fact, a lot of them are redundant. You might say that we came from the soil. Right, are what you eat, like, yep. So if you have healthy soil, it's going to make you healthier as well. There's more on that later. Next slide. This is a really cool one. So have you ever guys, would you consider plants to be herbivores or predators? Like, do they just eat like minerals and things like that, or do they eat or like living things? Yeah, like the photosynthesis and stuff. They do that, but they eat microbes. Like, this is a rhizophagy cycle. A guy, Dr. James White, he found this like 15 years ago. The only way he found this was he had to dye, so like the little blue color in the bottom, he had to dye the microbes so he could watch them go through the root. Really fascinating. So the plant uses superoxide, and it strips the microbes. Well, first off, it sucks them into the end of the root. It's like the root ends. And then it strips them of their shells or their skin with a superoxide. And then the microbes have to actually make this, what is it called? I forget what it's called. They protect themselves with another mineral or a hormone that buffers the superoxide, and that interaction makes nitrogen. So you got some nitrogen fixing there. But then some of the microbes don't actually survive that, and they just get eaten by the plant. So once they go into the plant, they are now called endophytes. By raise of hand, who all knows like soil biology, has been introduced to soil biology at all? Have a little bit of like background, like do you have like, oh really, from Dr. Lane Ingham or? Okay, cool, that's awesome. How far did you get it? Okay, did you finish your courses or did you like? Oh, okay, that's cool. Secondhand, like, yeah, that's nice. What about you? You said you. Oh, the.
I just teach a chapter on botany and biology.
Okay.
I took a botany class.
Okay. Well, if I say anything wrong, those guys might know. But so don't nail me too hard. So anyway, what was I? It's so cool. The rhizophagy cycle is super cool. Like when I learned about that, I was like, holy crap, plants are amazing. So the other thing is like, you can't tell the microbes are in there unless you were to dye it. Like the only reason he knows that they're there is because he dyed it and was looking at it under a microscope. So there's a whole thing we need to learn here. It's only been 15 years and he hasn't gotten through everything. So he actually had to decide, he had to figure out different dyes to test the different chemical reactions that were going on as well. Super cool. But if he hadn't thought of doing that, he wouldn't know what was going on. So very fascinating. I feel like there's like some science behind this that we can use in our own bodies and stuff like that and figure out things. Because if plants are anything like us, which I kind of think they are, there's some things we need to learn. Next slide. Oh, this is about endophytes. So endophytes, they do a lot of different things. So they will protect plants. They will give the plant like when there's a pest there, the endophytes can actually like protect, like defend the plant. They can break down nutrients for the plant inside the thing. There's like a bunch of different. Holy crap! You know when your like brain like just turns off. Yeah. Well, today's not Friday. At least I don't think so. Right. So endophytes, they're microbes inside the plant. So the plant actually moves around those microbes once they go into the roots and stuff. You start getting all kinds of cool stuff. Different hormones are produced. Oh, forgot about the rhizophagy cycle. Go back one. The rhizophagy cycle. Okay, so the little root hairs, they are not produced unless there are microbes inside of, because the microbes are the ones producing the growth hormone, make those fine root hairs. So you have, like if you look at a plant root, it has the big root. Oh, okay. Okay, sorry, I'm not too close. I'm too far away. No. So the fine root hairs, if you find sterile soil, the roots will be like big roots going throughout, right? As soon as you get microbes in there, you start getting the really fine little hairs going off of the roots. So that's actually a really good indicator of soil. Like if you pull a plant out and it has like bad roots, there's no dirt will cling to the roots really well if it has all the fine root hairs too. So if it looks like it has a sheath of dirt around it, then you have some rhizophagy cycle going on. Yeah.
But if the microbe comes in through the root, how does the microbe get in it if it doesn't have the fine root?
So it comes through the big root. It gets sucked in through the big root, and then it actually gets pushed out of the fine root hairs, and then it cycles back through. That's actually why it's the cycle. Yeah. Yeah. Yep. Yeah. And then it's soil microbes, so whatever's in the soil. There are certain kind of microbes that can actually go through this cycle, and others can't. So, by the way, this is a science that we only know like less than 1% of the microbes in the soil. We've only identified that many. There's like 99% more out there that we know are there. And we can test them with DNA, but we don't know what they are or what they do. So lots of stuff to learn. All right, go forward 2 slides. Okay, nitrogen fixation. So, when we learn about fertilizer, nitrogen is one of the major things that people tell you to put on your lawn, on your crops and things like that because it greens them up, right? Guess what? 78% of your atmosphere is nitrogen. And guess what? There's microbes that pull it out and put it in the ground. So cool. So you have a couple different kinds of nitrogen-fixing bacteria. You have some that, the rhizobia, they're just free living. They live in the soil, and they fix nitrogen wherever they are. You also have ones that are, got their name. They make nodules on mostly bean family. Yeah. Legumes, yes, legumes. So mostly on legumes, but they can do it on other plants too. They turn red because they're actually making hemoglobin, just like our blood cells, which is interesting. But so the plant has to actually have the microbes with it to be able to do the nitrogen fixation. So if you have those microbes and you have the minerals that they need to actually do the nitrogen fixing, then you have the nitrogen you need for the plant when you need it, where it needs it. So very cool. Instead of us trying to, guess how much a plant needs of nitrogen, have the microbes decide. Actually, there's a cool relationship between plants and microbes. The plant will send out exudates, which are just sugars, basically, sugars and amino acids and whatever else they can make to attract microbes. And that's one of the things they're looking for, is specific nutrients. And so they can ask for what they need, and then the microbes will give it to them by either getting sucked into their roots or by getting eaten by other predators. So, super cool.
You need to explain the predators eat them,
Yeah,
and then the predators pass the nutrients,
right,
and that's what the plant uses.
right. So that's one mode, is the predators eat them, and then their excrement is what the plant is able to absorb because it is a bioavailable form. Yeah. So the plant can't actually mine minerals. Can't do that. So if the minerals are not bioavailable, it's unavailable to the plant. You have to have them, like even when you do a soil test and it says you have available nutrients, it's going through microbes to get to the plant. It's not going straight to the plant. Next slide. I was ahead of myself. Look at that. This is the plant exudates asking for. Oh, this is actually a little different. The plant uses the exudates as well to signal microbes to protect it as well. So you have a couple different modes that the plant can save itself. You can either use its own defense mechanisms, or it can use microbes' defense mechanisms. Pests and diseases, so, pathogens and things. Next slide. Now this is DNA sequencing of exudates. So if a plant exudate, there's a few it can make. There's a lot. It is very capable of making all the different kinds of exudates to ask for, to do whatever it needs. Like, we don't even know all of the things that it can do with the exudates. How am I doing on time? Am I going too fast? Okay, cool. Next slide.
We'll take care of that.
Oh yeah, you got some questions? Okay. Okay, so good soil. There are some characteristics that make good soil. You got to have the good tilth. You got to have sufficient depth and all. Reading things with tilth. Tilth is the I'm thinking friability. That's another nice word. It's the sponginess of it, the texture. That's the word. So. Yeah, not really. Not if it's like mostly clay. But there's a thing about microbes and all types of soil. They actually are the engineers of soil. You take any kind of soil and you add microbes for long enough, and it becomes loamy. Any kind. So you have sandy loam, clay loam. It's the microbes that make the loam. Yep. Sand dunes are devoid of lots of microbes. If you put them in there and let them live long enough, you get a sandy loam. So, let's see. Yeah. So, cool stuff. Next slide. So this is kind of what texture is a good texture of soil. So the color is also a good indicator. 70% chocolate color is a good color for soil. You have humates in there that make it that color. If it's black, you actually have gone anaerobic and could have some toxins in there, could have some bad bacteria. That depends on where it's at. But usually you don't see black unless you're doing like compost that's gone bad or against bank spurs and stuff. But anyway, so you have like, it looks kind of like cottage cheese. There's a lot of holes, there's a lot of roots, and you also have some worms and stuff. So when you buy the potting soil, it's black from the J&J or whatever. Saying that is not good soil. It very likely isn't. There's a possibility. I'd have to like look at it, but black is not the best color to have. So it does mean that you had some anaerobic activity. So there are some anaerobic activities that are actually beneficial, but if it's not like on purpose, then it's like putrefying. So you're just rotting. You can fix soil that's like that though. You have to do it with microbes. Like Joel Salatin actually has a good quote. You can't chemical your way out of soil infertility. You got to use microbes. Life. Joel Salatin's cool. I don't know if you guys have heard of him. Anybody heard of him? Joel Salatin? One? You should look him up. Joel Salatin. He's the... Yep. Oh, should I get closer? Is that better? Okay. Okay, sorry. Okay, I guess we'll go to the next one. Next slide. Yeah, okay. Ooh, yeah, so this one's a little, I felt like it was a little wordy, but it demonstrates very nicely. So there's an ecological succession in the soil, and it is based off of a few different things. With this one, you can see the purple arrows on the bottom. That is indicating the bacteria and then the fungal. So there's a little yellow line in the middle. You have more fungal dominance on the right and more bacterial dominance on the left. You notice on the far left of the screen, you have like bare soil. That's like desert and stuff. And then you progressively get into old growth forests and very established plants. So the more fertile your soil is, the more bacteria you're going to have. So your gardens and stuff are kind of in the middle. You want to have like a 1:1 ratio, basically. Very cool stuff. So you can actually change your fertility of your soil based off of what's growing in it. And what kind of plants want to grow in it. That's the other thing. Weeds, they're further on to the left. They like bacteria. So if you can build your soil's health and fertility, you actually lose weeds. They stop being very strong. Yes? Bindweed, I think. I still have to do some testing to see if that actually is the case. I don't know exactly where it sits in the succession, but based off of its growth patterns and where it grows and how aggressive it is, it's more of a pioneer plant, so it's more to the left. And it's like, it has a lot of hair roots and it has a lot of biomass. So like, when you're talking weeds, weeds are the first responders of soil. So like you kill the soil, the weeds are gonna come in and they're gonna try to fix it. So the bindweed, I think it actually has a purpose of like holding soil together and also breaking up compaction a little bit and also bringing lots of organic matter. I think that's its purpose. So if you fix the soil, I think that'll go away.
So you're saying add fungus?
Yeah, you want to bring the fungal component of the soil up. Yeah.
So in Africa, when they've got these very destroyed soils and they have fungus growing and nurturing that, and that will build soil all the way up 6 feet up to the surface. Then they plant their fruit crops in that soil. So they take what was a bad plant and they use it to turn around and create good soil.
That's cool. Where was that again?
Africa.
Oh, Africa. Okay. Cool. Yeah. Like, see, there are. Oh, okay. That's cool. There are some pretty cool people out there. There's a lot of. Oh. Okay. The Elaine's group does seem to like to travel a lot. Like, a lot of their consultants go all over the place. Yeah, they are. They're cool people. But like they're fixing the soil with biology. That's really cool. So, let's see. Was there something else I needed to point out on there? Oh, pH is also related to this. So if you have more alkaline soils, it is bacteria dominated. Bacteria use alkaline glues and things like that to hold soil together. So you end up having alkaline soil. And then fungus uses acid to break down its food and stuff. So you got more acidic. So that the plants actually can change that as well, which is kind of cool. Next slide. Oh yeah, okay, let's see. Switching gears. I think I covered all of the soil food web and like the processes with that and stuff, at least fundamentally. Like you can go so deep into these, like the microbes and everything like that, they have courses for like hundreds of hours of content. Yeah.
It's a balancing act.
Mm.
It's not all of one or all of the other. It's a balancing act, and usually you take those balances, there's different crops, different types of vegetation, different processes.
Yes.
So it's really incredible.
It is. Yes, very intricate, very incredible. For instance, the balancing act, you have like brassicas, like cabbages and broccoli and things like that. They actually prefer more bacteria-dominated soils. They're lower on the succession. Whereas like grass or trees or shrubs and things like that, or vines and things like grapes or blackberries and things like that, they're higher fungal component. In fact, blueberries, you know how they like acidic soils? It's because they like fungal soils. So you have the balancing act. So if you're going to grow brassicas, you want to treat your soil differently than if you're going to try to grow blueberries. And you want to have a different fungal to bacteria ratio for optimal growth. So yeah, like, and all of this stuff is like new within the last 30 years, basically. So it's really cool. So much to learn. So now that we've covered the players of soil fertility, we're going to go through a little bit of how you can actually create that. So compost is an amazing way to make a lot of the microbes in the soil. Because when you're making compost, you're literally taking a bunch of things that have microbes in them or on them, putting them into a pile, and then making more of those microbes. Yeah, incubating. So that is what compost is, as long as you're doing it right. There's a couple of ways to do it. Well, okay, there's like wrong ways to do it, and then there's a lot of right ways to do it. And really the only difference between wrong and right is your end result. So if you don't get something good out of it, it was a bad way to do it. So these are a couple of different ways you can do it. There's aerobic methods, there's anaerobic methods, there's vermicomposting, and there's mechanical composting, which that one I'm not very familiar with. Vermicomposting is worms, which I don't know why they call it verma, but worms. I guess it's probably Latin or something. But yeah, so of the aerobic and anaerobic and vermicomposting, those all can produce very good compost. There's different ways you can do it. You can do heaps, you can do piles, you can do stacks, aeration. Like we could talk for like 3 weeks on compost and not get through it all. So next slide. Yeah, so this is a thermophilic pile time frame. Thermophilic piles are aerobic, and they're actually what Dr. Elaine Ingham is and recommends and things like that. And so I went through all of her courses and stuff, so I know a thing or two. So you have to get it hot enough to kill the microbes, and you have to have it hot enough, well, not microbes, all the seeds, weed seeds, and break down everything like that. So, and you have to turn it a few times to make sure that you don't go anaerobic, because in this situation, you don't want anaerobic stuff going on. Yes? That's a good point. Yes, so I will definitely explain that. Thank you. Thank you for pulling that out. So aerobic is air-filled, and anaerobic is lack of air. So you have, compacted soil will be anaerobic. Probably, like it just chops it up so much, and yeah, probably. That would definitely, because it's like on the tabletop, right? Yeah, I think that would probably be a mechanical one. I need to look into it a little bit more, because Dr. Landingham and nobody else that I've talked to or learned from uses mechanical composting.
This is an interesting take on the mechanical, and it's called black soldier fly larva.
Is that considered mechanical?
Well, it does it mechanically.
It's like, that's like closer to vermicompost, I thought, because they're so cool.
Much faster.
Oh yeah.
For like 3 months to 3 days.
3
months for worms, 3 days for black soldier.
Yeah, they can just they go through a lot of stuff.
That's what we call it mechanical.
Yeah. Okay. Well, if that's mechanical, then I have done a little bit of that. Yeah, because like black soldier flies, they can eat like, for every pound of soldier flies, you can eat like 1/4 pound of food scraps per day. It's fast. There's actually, not in America, I think there's one in America maybe, but like in Indonesia and several other countries, they have really large scale composting facilities or food waste facilities that use black soldier flies. Oh yeah. Okay. So I knew there was one in you guys. So cool. Yeah. But the other cool thing is that black soldier flies are like mostly protein, and so if you have like chickens or pigs or any fish, yeah, like you can feed it to, like you take waste and turn it into food for your animals. It's really cool. Yeah. Let's see. Go for it.
But I also, for the sake of those who are listening online, we probably better reserve questions to like the end so that you can give your presentation. But
Fair enough.
on the compost pile, since that picture is right up there, if in my garden I put my eggshells, I put my whatever, all in a pile in my garden, my grass clippings, my leaves in one pile, is that what that compost pile is?
No. So thermophilic piles you make all at once and use large quantities of things because you have to get the heat up. So what you're talking about is a static pile. And you can make okay compost with static piles. It's a little more difficult. And it's a little more time consuming too. So that's also yes. So this is actually, thermophilic piles take, they only take like 30 days to cook technically, and then they're basically broken down all the way, and then you let them mature for 6 months to a year. But you can use them after like 3 months. So, but the static piles, once you put them all in there, it like, one of the bad things about static piles like what you're talking about, throwing the kitchen scraps in there and stuff, is that a lot of times you're only putting kitchen scraps in there, and so you have a lot of wetness, which makes you go anaerobic. And you end up gassing off a lot of the nutrients that you could have had. And it's like when you see those pile, like you start out with a big pile and like ends up being like this, all that nutrients that was there is gassed off, or it's usually just gassing off. Like the CO2 is disappearing, going into carbon dioxide instead of being carbon in the soil. So I wouldn't recommend just doing a static pile like that, but you can if you purposely make it anaerobic with certain microbes. There are like yeasts and lactobacillus, and there's actually a company that makes a biological product that is anaerobic, and if you use that with your static pile, then it's purposefully anaerobic and actually breaks down, and those microbes can actually do a really good job of turning it into stuff. They're actually, most of the microbes that company uses are actually endophytes, specifically. But they also are very good at making things break down fast. So they're actually, tangent. So have you guys ever heard of terra preta? Terra preta. In the Amazons. Yeah, black soil. But it's, so if you ever look it up, it's really cool. So the Amazon rainforest, like the soil is generally very depleted. Like every time they cut out all the trees and try to grow crops, like they only get one crop in and then it's like nothing. It's just clay, right? And the reason that is because you have such fast nutrient cycling. The microbes in the soil are just chewing things up and they're just gassing all of the carbon off, like just lose everything. So the Amazon natives had this process they went through, which we could go through a long time talking about if you want to, but they basically made black soil that was super fertile indefinitely, and you can still find it in the areas that they were at, and it has a lot of anaerobic microbes in it because of how they made it and stuff. But it's cool. So there is a place for anaerobic stuff, but you can't do it without purpose. You do it on accident, and then it's just bad. It's just putrefied. Yeah.
Do we know how to recreate the process of creating terra preta?
Very close. Like they have basically recreated it. Basically it has beer yeast in it, and it has a bunch of bacilluses, lactobacillus and things like that. A lot of biochar, and also has like clay pot particles in it and stuff like that too. But there's a bokashi is one of the composting methods that gets pretty close to it. So it's a fermented compost. Bokashi is. They use effective microbes is what the microbes are called. It's from Terraganics. They're really cool people. Yeah. So the guy Matt Powers that I took a course from, he has the whole process laid out in his course. I would highly recommend getting his stuff, but he also has a book that called Regenerative Soil, and in that book he also has a recipe for that. So Matt Powers is really cool because he goes around and finds experts in industries, and then he teaches that. So he found somebody that has been playing with it for a long time, and then got the recipes and figured out things, and he's all right. Next slide. Oh yeah, another one. Johnson Sioux composts. They're really cool. This one is a static pile, but you put it all together at one time and then you leave it for a year. So, and this one actually does have worms in it as well, integrated. So it ends up being kind of a vermicompost, but between this one and thermophilic compost, they have very high numbers of microbes. So you can, if you make it right, you can get really good stuff. You can also make it wrong, turn it too often or not enough, or if you put the wrong stuff in it, if your recipe's off or whatever, you can kill stuff. Anyway, so it's kind of a science. It's kind of fun. Johnson Su is very well known. He's actually a professor at one of the universities. I don't remember which one, but well, Johnson is, and then Sue, his wife. They both came up with the process. And you can look up recipes for the Johnson Su compost online. They have everything out and stuff. So if you want to get really good compost, that's an easy one to do. If you're going to do a static pile like you were saying earlier, I would actually add, there's one way you could do a static pile where you have like a big pile of wood chips, and then you bury your food scraps in different spots all over the place. And then once you fill up the whole pile, then you would take it and go through a thermophilic phase, or you could actually just let it sit for longer and compost it that way. But that way, you're encouraging anaerobic environment as well. And it's not, yeah, it's good. So it's a lot better that way. Next slide. Oh yeah, okay, we're changing gears again. That's why I couldn't think of where I was going. So we talked about compost. We talked about microbes. Now we're going to talk a little bit about conventional fertilizer. So there is a reason why it's better not to use conventional fertilizers. Well, there's a few reasons, but here's a couple. So the blue is the amount of fertilizer that the plant actually absorbs when you apply nitrogen soil. So you're losing, 40, 50% of your nitrogen that you add to the soil in the granular form. This is just money you're throwing away, basically. But also, the stuff that you're losing is either gassing off or washing away, basically. So that's where you get like algal blooms in ponds and things like that. It's from fertilizer being washed away. So it's food that's not supposed to be where it is. I think. Anyway, so that was one of the things that I wanted to bring up. And the fact that, we covered the microbes, we covered the compost. Like basically with those things, you can get all the nutrients you need. You don't really need to be adding synthetics to have fertility. So, next slide. Oh, yeah. Okay, so this guy, the next few slides are about ways that you can test for your own soil fertility. Actually, it's plant fertility, which is directly correlated to soil fertility, so it's kind of like both. But this guy, Dr. Tom, I'm going to butcher his name, but it's like Brinkins? Yeah, I totally butchered it. Anyway, he gave me permission to use his slides. So he is an entomologist that studies bugs. That's what the word, yes. And he's been doing it for like 25 years. So this is a bunch of findings that he has found. So, you know what? I put this one in the wrong spot. Oh well. We're going to go through this, and then we're going to find other slides that talk about the same thing I'm going to talk about. So, BRIX. BRIX, the B-R-I-X. That is the indicator of, it's a testing of the sugar content of your leaf inside of a plant, right? So plants produce sugars from photosynthesis and from minerals that they have and all that kind of stuff. So the more sugar that a plant has, the more minerals it has available, the more health the plant has because it can do more, right? It has more tools. So things that lower BRIX, you have insecticides and fungicides and herbicides. So he's been testing this for 25 years. Like these are the things that he's found. High salt fertilizers. So any synthetic fertilizer has salt base because if they didn't add the salt, it would explode. So like nitrogen, it's the binder, right? So it is high salts. GMO plants, fascinating, very fascinating. The lecture that I watched him talk about GMO plants. So maybe I'll actually bring it later. And then greenhouse plants. So greenhouse, that's just mostly because you have a piece of plastic that's between the sun and the plant, and so it's not getting all of the UV rays. So you don't have quite the same photosynthesis going on. But anyway, so those are very fascinating. When I was watching this thingy, I was like, oh my gosh, so cool. So next slide. I think this is, yeah, okay. So this is a bricks chart, a scale. You can see lots of different numbers, and what was I gonna, GMO crops, he was saying, only get to like 4, bricks 4, okay? So with between 3 and 8, basically, you have, aphid group, that's where it is, on that right there, okay. So aphids love plants that are in this range, okay? Because aphids actually don't eat sugar. Did you guys know that? So your apricot tree is in that zone. It's between 3 and 8. Yeah, it's sick. What do you do? Okay, we'll get there a little bit. So if you're below 2, your plant's gonna die, like, soon. Like, it's chronic. Like, if you're not spoon feeding it at this point, it's gonna die in a week or 2. Right? So most plants are not that bad, but that's what that is. So if you get a little bit better bricks, you start getting sucking insects, like wow. See, plants and humans are not that far off, right? Box elder bugs, yeah, those kind of bugs, or and like not stink bugs, but like leafhopper. Leafhoppers are grasshoppers are chewing, but you have squash bugs. They're a sucking insect, and then you have chewing insects that are above that, right? So grasshoppers and leafhoppers and things like that. Pretty sure leafhoppers are chewing, or are they sucking? Mites too, yeah. So actually, I think mites are in the aphid group. He mentioned them, I think. So if you get above 12 or 14 bricks, none of those pests can eat the plant because there's too much sugar, and they will actually die. They will mummify. It's very cool. So, I didn't actually say what aphids like. So they actually are eating nitrogen. So they're making a lot of babies, and basically they need a lot of nitrogen to make those babies. They're making hundreds of babies a day, basically. So they actually have a bypass mechanism in their gut to jettison sugar, right? So that's why you get like aphids with the dewdrops in the back, and like ants will farm them and stuff. Yeah, kind of cool. But if the sugar content goes up too high, even suddenly, the aphids will candy. They will turn into candy, and they will die. So, yeah. So, next slide. Let's see if... this is an aphid. Okay, so this is related to GMO crops. So, he found that the soybean aphid was not a problem with agriculture at all. It was known back like 200 years ago. Like when they brought the GMOs out, like, what is it, 3 years? Yeah, so the GMO crops were introduced in 1996. And then the soybean aphid became a problem in 1999. So, like I said earlier, go back a slide. So you have the aphid section between 3 and 8. GMO crops really have a hard time getting past like 4 or 5. So they're perfect food for aphids. We don't know why they want to stay in that range. Like, we don't understand the science behind it totally, but you can test for it and you can see it. So it's like, obviously it's not great. Okay, the next slide. Yeah, I think that's all. Yeah, like, oh, he does have like the numbers right there. So in the 11th century, China has had soybeans since the 11th century. The soybean was introduced in 1965, and the soybean aphid was identified in 1917, but we didn't have an issue with it until 1999. And it was right after that. So correlation, causation, probably. So next slide. Oh, I forgot to say, the soybean aphid is what's it called? It only eats certain plants. Soybeans are one of them. It's not a broad spectrum. There's some aphids that'll eat anything, but the soybean aphid specifically goes after soybeans. So, and a few other plants like soybeans. So it's very fascinating that we had a problem all of a sudden like that. That was another thing that he said. Okay, so this is a little bit about Brix as well. So you see the little white layer around the outside of the grapes? That is an indicator of how much Brix you have in the grape. And the fruit fly can't actually penetrate a grape that is healthy. So if you have any, how high your Brix is. The thicker it is, the more Brix you have, the more sugar content you have in the grape. Yes. Oh, that's the other thing I didn't say. So sugar is sweet, right? More complex sugar is sweeter. Flavor, oh, go back to the Brix light, the Brix thing. Yeah. So flavor happens around 8. If you eat something lower than 8, it's cardboard. You can't taste anything. You start getting flavor at 8, but then the further up you go, the more flavor you get. So if you have like a watermelon that's like a 10 Brix, it's yummy. If you have a watermelon that's like a 20 Brix, you're in heaven. Like, it's really good. So if there was one time that I saw there was a valiant effort. This store, I think it was Lee's actually, they put up a Brix thing. They were like, this is where our Brix is and our food and stuff. And it was detrimental to their sales because it was like average good stuff and theirs was lower. Like, you can't buy stuff that's high Brix at the grocery store because of conventional, like the chart that I showed to begin with, the things that lower Brix, fertilizers, fungicides, herbicides, GMOs, like conventional farming uses a lot of those. And so every single one of those is ticking you down. You're dropping your Brix a couple of degrees, right? So, next slide, or a couple of slides. Next one. Okay, so this is actually my last slide. So this is the Brix refractometer. This is a really easy handheld tool that any of you could learn how to use in like 10 minutes. That is how you check Brix. So it is widely used in the alcohol industry because wine and beer and things like that have a higher alcohol content if they have more sugar. And so it's advantageous to them to know how much sugar is in the fruit or the juice before they actually ferment it. Then you can gauge how much you're going to get out of it. So actually pretty inexpensive as well. These you can get them for like $20, or you can spend like $300 on them, depending on how fun you want to go. Anyway, so you can use that to check your Brix every hour if you wanted to, or I'd buy them online. You just look up refractometer, Brix refractometer. So, yes?
Why would the soil change every hour? Are you testing soil, or what are we testing with that?
You're testing the juice from a leaf. So you're actually taking like a garlic press or a clamp or something like that and squeezing out a drop of juice and putting it on the screen. So the little blue piece on the bottom flips up. You put a drop on it, it flips down, makes it flat, and then basically you're looking through it and seeing the bend of light. And the more it bends, the more thick the juice is, and therefore the more sugar it has in.
And if the number wasn't high enough, what would you do? The
Right. So there's a couple of things you can do. And you had that question too. So you can, well, there's quick fixes, and then there's slower, longer-term fixes. So the microbes in the soil directly correlate with how well a plant can do things. So your bricks goes up with the microbes. So if you don't have microbes, you're going to have lower bricks. If you implement or bring microbes in, you'll raise the bricks. The other thing that affects it is mineral nutrients. So a lot of times you can take and add like a foliar application of some nutrients. So that's when you spray it on the leaves, because the leaves will actually soak up the minerals really fast if it's bioavailable or broken down, right? So you could add, well, you could do a foliar of like nitrogen, or you could do a foliar of cobalt or nickel, or like, there's a bunch of different micronutrients that might be missing, and once they're available to the plant, it will be able to produce sugar. So you can do fast fixes with mineral applications like that, and then also just having your soil amended as well. So if for some reason you don't have minerals in your soil because it's been depleted, then having like rock dusts and things like that in there are very beneficial. Yeah.
If you wanted to make really good soil and you're just starting out with your beds, what would you go get to make really good soil?
Right.
That's what I came here to learn.
Oh, I'm
Like,
thinking.
I got peat moss and perlite, and I mix it a bunch of stuff together, and some gold, whatever, just mix it all up.
Black gold, yeah. Yeah, so there are a lot of different recipes for garden beds and things like that. Honestly, you can do pretty much anything and then bring in microbes and fix it. But then you have to source the microbes. And one of the issues that I am running into is there's not a lot of people that know how to make good microbes. Like, there are people out there, but it's not a normal thing yet, which is one of my goals in life, is to make microbes biological, like fertilizer, like something you think of. Yeah.
That's where you're at in the program right now.
Yeah. Well,
You have to go through a couple of years of this before you move up.
yeah, basically. So some really getting like, yeah. So if you can find somebody that's producing compost that doesn't smell bad. Oh, don't ever smell compost before it's been matured for a little while. If it's still hot, don't smell it, because there are some funguses that produce spores that can make you sick. They're in unaged compost. So if it's not aged, don't breathe it. But if you can find somebody that makes good compost, that smells pretty decent, like a good earthen floor, has like 70% chocolate color, and yes.
What about the replenished landscape products? Supposedly they make that with compost.
Replenish landscape products? I'm actually not familiar with them. I'd have to look at them and stuff.
I personally know the owners, so I can get you their contact.
That would be cool, because I would like to, I need to, like, you asked the question, and I was like kicking myself, because I was like, I haven't sourced anything. I don't have things to go to. Like, I know a guy that makes some compost, and it's decent, but I don't have like large volumes.
Yeah, they supposedly use turkey compost.
Okay.
Dropped it through the compost.
Yeah, you can make decent compost with turkey. It totally depends on what comes out of it, basically. So.
If I have chickens in my backyard and I go get a shovel and I just take off the top layer of my whole chicken area,
Mhm.
do I just go put that in my garden?
That would burn your garden, actually. So, yeah, it's hot. It's got a lot of nitrogen in it, and it hasn't. So it's hot minerally or chemically. So chickens have a very, very high amount of nitrogen that they poop out, partly because they're eating seeds, and seeds are like mostly nitrogen. So you have to compost it first, and ideally you would age it as well. Basically, we could have like a whole lecture on compost, but you want carbon in it. So wood chips, leaves, straw, things that are very carbonaceous, whatever. Yeah, because you want to have like chicken manure is like a it's a gosh, I can't remember. It's like 20 to 1 or something like that. No, it's like 5 to 1, like 5 nitrogens to 1 carbon, which is really high. If you have something that's super carbonish, you can have like a 500 carbons to 1 nitrogen. So that's kind of the ratio that you're looking at. Like if you can get it down to like 20 to 1 or 30 to 1 or something like that, like that's a better ratio, and you're not going to burn your lawn out so much, or your garden.
So do I want to do it like in the fall when my garden's pretty much done, pick up the topsoil and my chickens
Oh,
go make a pad with grass and leaves and leave it,
you could do that, yeah.
spread it around in spring and bark?
You could, well, so if you're doing it over the winter, that actually does have a lot of time for it to molder and to break down and stuff. So you actually might be okay if you just spread it out during the winter time and let it go into the soil after, like it would.
You just need to do some research. There's no way you can answer this question.
You haven't, right.
I'm trying to shut up, but there's no way you can answer this question.
There's a lot of variables, say that, so.
I grew up in a family that sold nitrogen.
You did?
Yes.
Ah,
I grew up in a family that had 3,000 acres of potatoes. And I did it all wrong.
but you're learning, that's good. I like that.
At 72?
Hey, never too late.
No, I'm not too late.
Oh, never too late, I said, yeah. Yes.
So since chicken manure is very full of nitrogen, does that mean like bull manure and all that is too?
It's less so, but it still is. Like if you took bull manure fresh and you put it on your garden, it would still burn. But if you age it and compost it, it'll be fine. So, yeah.
There was a lady that told me that tilling and rototilling your garden is not a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
Can you tell us about that?
Yes, so tillage. Very good question. So, kind of controversial sometimes. When you were tilling the land, remember that picture we had of the dirt and the crumb structure and like cottage cheese look and stuff? So when you're tilling it, that structure goes away. So not only that, but you end up having the rototiller tines are spinning, right? And they're smacking the ground where they're bringing stuff up. So you're actually causing a compaction layer, like however deep you're going, compaction layer. So if you just do that, you end up having anaerobic stuff, you end up having bad water infiltration, stuff like that. You also are chopping up the microbes. A lot of them can survive that and will, and they'll bounce back. But the other thing you're doing is you're introducing a lot of oxygen, and soil actually needs to have, oxygen, but it also needs to have anaerobic spots. It's got to have like a balance between the two. And if you just put a ton of oxygen in it, you actually end up basically telling the microbes, eat all the carbon, gas it off as CO2. So you lose your organic content of the soil, which reduces your water holding capacity, and then you have to water more. So you can till. Tilling is a tool, but I would do it as little as possible. Like I would even try not to do it at all. If you want to know how to garden, oh yeah, this is a good one. If you want to know how to garden without tilling, look up Singing Frogs Farm. Singing Frogs Farm. They have some amazing processes. I love it. They do no-till. They tilled the first time that they implemented their garden, and now they don't till anymore. So my background with gardening is high production and high turnover and like production, production oriented. So Senior Frogs Farm is a large production farm. Well, large as in like, I think they have 5 acres, maybe 2 or 3 acres of production, but they're producing several $100,000 worth of produce off of that a year. So like they're selling a lot of pounds. But I really like their style. So they went from like 1% organic matter to like, I think they're in the 10 or 12 range right now. And when you're in 10 or 12 range, like for every % of organic matter you have in the soil, your soil's holding like 20,000 gallons of water per acre, which is effectively a week of watering. It's like, so every % you have that much buffer for drought, basically. So if you can bring your organic content up, you don't have drought. So.
Carbon cowboys. Are you familiar with that?
Carbon cowboys?
Yes.
No.
How about roots so deep you can see the devil down there?
No, I haven't. Yeah, ooh, I need that info. Okay. Yeah. Oh, yes.
How deep should that organic matter be?
How deep should it be? Well, there's a good question. So, back a long time ago, we used to have this big prairie in the Midwest.
Used to be a savanna.
Yeah. So, the organic content of that area was topsoil, which is including organic content, was like 10, 12, 15 feet deep. So plants can put the roots down really deep, and when you have roots that deep, there is no water shortage because you don't have anything drying out.
You can go 5 years without water.
Yeah, like amazing. So like you could start out with like benchmarks with like I want to get like the first 6 inches or the first foot or whatever like that, but like they've even found roots of trees 300 feet in the ground. Like that carbon content can go that whole section. Depth. Yeah, that, yeah. So, yeah. And that's all biological and plant oriented. So, and some grass roots will grow very deep like that, like savannas and stuff.
What they found is that the fungus is the initiator. It drills and then the roots follow it.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So how do you get fungus?
Ooh.
That's what we have to talk about for a while.
Yes, that's a good one. So there is a specific type of fungus that you can apply quite easily, called mycorrhizae. There we go. Mycorrhizae.
MYCORRHIZAE.
Yeah, thanks. Not the greater.
RHIZAE.
Yeah. What he said.
RHIZAE. Sounds like the botanic or the botany class word.
It did. That was good. Spelling is not my strongest point on that, especially when I'm in front of people. So, so mycorrhizae is actually one of the superpowers of the soil. So mycorrhizae is a fungus that evolved with plants, cannot subsist without them. And with that same thought process, plants did too. So, like, they evolved with the fungus. And it partners with like 80% of all plant life. Or maybe it's 90. It might have been 90 actually. So there's endo, there's ecto, and there's like 3 of them. And one of them only like deciduous trees partners with. I think that's ecto. Yeah. I'm having a hard time remembering. But endomycorrhizae, yeah. have to do some research. The Matt Powers guy, that book, Regenerative Soil, he has all that written down. So that's like a textbook of beauty. It's got pictures and everything. Yes, I think so. But he also has a website, mattpowers.com, or permaculture student, I think. Or maybe it's regenerative soil, actually. Yes.
So did you have a question? So one question I had is on manure. We have rabbits.
Oh, yeah.
So do you just leave that on top then, or do you till that in?
So my general practice is to put things on top. But rabbit manure is not hot. You can just apply that as you want. Yeah. So, but like, if you look at nature, it doesn't really till things into it very often. And so, if you apply things to the surface and you have good microbes and you have good worms and things like that, they'll actually till it for you and bring it down naturally. So, I like to do top dressing for that reason.
I think on one of your first slides you had a way of gardening where you put a lot of like, I forget the name of it, but you put a lot of organic material underneath
Uh-huh.
and it kind of self-waters itself. Did you have that on one of your first slides? Is it permaculture?
Permaculture.
Yes.
I didn't actually. It wasn't on one of the slides, but I did mention it.
Okay.
Yeah. So permaculture has a lot of things that it does. One of the things they do try to do is self-watering and self-maintenance and stuff like that. Trying to mimic all of nature's stuff. If you keep the ground covered, it doesn't dry out, so it holds water better. You actually get some water coming from lower down, as well as you get some water movement instead of just drying out. If it's mulched or if the ground is covered with living.
Is hugelculture permaculture or
Different people started those, but permaculture people like to implement hugelculture. So, hugelculture, for anybody that doesn't know, is you take trees, wood, logs, things like that, and you bury them, like you dig a trench, you bury them in different layers and things, and then you have dirt on top of it, and then the act of that decomposing holds, well, once they decompose a little bit, you have like a sponge in there, it holds water really well. But then it's also like kind of a raised bed, harvest from easier, and it's nutrients and all that kind of stuff, so it's also a great way to stop water from moving around. You have like water that you need to catch from, then you need to catch from like a runoff or whatever. So, swales and things. Yes.
I'm having a really big problem with dandelions and
You can do that. It's true. Morning glory?
yes.
Everybody does. Yeah. So the ecological succession that I pointed out will help with that. I don't actually know where dandelions fit.
Slide with the purple arrow on the bottom.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. So it's a weed, right? It's actually, dandelions have a deep root. They're actually breaking up compaction.
Because I've been digging them up all week and it's driving me crazy.
Yeah, they can be pretty persistent. I do have, well, so you're asking how to take care of them fast?
Yeah.
Okay.
They're everywhere. Good luck.
So there's actually a product out there that I've actually started applying to people's lawns as well. So if anybody didn't know, I have started a lawn care business, well, a fertilizer business that uses biology. And one of the things that I do is I do spray for weeds, but I use iron-based weed killer that only kills broadleaves, because broadleaves can suck up more iron than grass can, and they could actually get a lethal dose of it and die. So there's a company that sells it for homeowners called Sunday. Their website, I think, is Get Sunday, and it's called Dandelion Doom. Good reason. and that will kill it quickly. And because it's iron, iron is actually a micronutrient that everything needs. It's part of photosynthesis. It's also microbes. Yes, it's chelated.
My morning glory now has thorns.
Oh, well, that's not morning glory then. That's something else.
It's in there.
Mutated. We got aliens over here, guys.
I was picking it the other day and it poked.
Huh. You might be dealing with something else, so that's fun. Yeah, if it's got thorns, it's even more weedy. Because, like, anything with thorns, from my perspective, is like nature saying, stay off of me, I'm healing. I'm really bad off. So if you can get the soil healthier, it should go away. Like, that's my observation of it. See, the bricks thingy, test it. Because it might look like it's okay, but it might only be like a 6 bricks, or maybe like an 8.5, and so aphids aren't on it, but like it's not that healthy yet. Like true health happens after 12 or 14. So like that's where you're getting your. Technically, because it's chelated iron, you could use it as a micronutrient. I don't know the ratios you would use, and you would want to use like very little because broadleaves, anything with bigger leaves, not grass, right? Trees, bushes, dandelions, apples, whatever. Yeah, it would kill them if you did it at the wrong. Okay. And the other thing is like if iron isn't missing, like if the plants already have available iron, then adding the iron is not going to help them. But if it is missing, it will help them, and you should see a result. In fact, if you're testing with bricks, this is the coolest thing about this. If you take and you're like, I wonder if it needs iron, right? You spray the iron on there in a very micro dose, and you test it before with the bricks, and you test it after. And you test it at the same time of day because you don't want, like, the bricks will change throughout the day based off of the sunlight. If you test the same time of day, you'll get a reasonably accurate reading, and if you see the bricks rise, like even a little bit of percentage, then the plant liked it, did something good. If it drops, don't do that again. If it just stays the same, then it wasn't really that beneficial, or it wasn't in the right dosage or something. But like this is a science that you can use to really hone in on plant health. Really easy. Yes. Yes. Like if you add the microbes and the plant all of a sudden jumps in bricks, obviously the plant did not have microbes and needed them. So, totally forgot. So, when you apply fertilizers, they're chemicals and synthetic and things, it actually disassociates the plant from microbes. The plant is like, I don't need these guys because I have this. And I can just use this. So if you use synthetic fertilizers too frequently or too much or at all maybe, well, it disassociates from them. And then you have a situation where the plant has to have the fertilizer. And so you end up having a cycle where if you don't fertilize, the plant doesn't get it. So instead of doing that, put the microbes there, let them do the job, and you don't have that problem. Yes, actually, exactly. Yes. Yeah, so where do you get the microbes? Right now, I'm the best source I know of. But you can compost. Oh, so the microbes are everywhere, right? But they're not like, depending on the environment and what's been happening, they might not be there anymore. So if you can make the microbes with good compost, you can bring them to a place that doesn't have them. Or if you can get a biological amendment, some places have microbes, like the company Terraganics. They have a Terraganics. Organics, like organic, but Terraganics. Something like that, yeah. It's one word all smashed together. They have a product called EM, Effective Microbes, and that would be an easy way to apply the microbes. That's like endophytes, and they're part of what makes terra preta and things like that. So you got some good nutrients. Yeah. Oh, dang. Yes, a little bit. Right. If they have the right situation, yeah. Yep. There's actually a indigenous microbes. Yeah. Yeah. Well, it cost me a couple $1,000s. Yeah. Right. Well, that guy probably cost, yeah, a little bit more. But yeah, so you're talking about indigenous microbes. There is a very, like, the reason why when you get off of a plane and you have like a huge problem with your immune system is because you're running into a bunch of microbes that are different. It's like the categories of microbes aren't going to be that much different, but the specific players will be. So you are right that the thing about the Terraganics though and the EM, so the Elaine Ingham has a lot of things right, but she also focuses very niche. So she's not as holistic as I would like to be. And so I've branched out into a lot of different modalities. And no, I'm looking for the overall fix. So with the EM, the microbes they have in there, they've done DNA testing and things like that, and they actually find those same microbes in all of the good composts. So they're similar compositions and stuff. So right, but like with the EM, it's just a concentration of a lot of good microbes that are easy to apply, and it's not like you don't want to just have those guys by themselves. You want to have the full gamut, but for ease, or I guess speed is one of the things, but like it's also an anaerobic process to make those, so it's like a totally different type of microbe, but they're also facultative, so it's like there's a lot of cool stuff about them. Yeah. Yeah, it's an endophyte, so every single plant will absorb it into its cells and start using it. So, yeah. Well, so weeds don't associate with as many types of microbes. So if you have, yeah, the iron stuff is just going to kill them. Like that's just an herbicide. Yeah. So if you but for like long-term, right? The long-term solution for weeds is to have healthy soil so that weeds don't want to grow. But the quick fix is you can use iron, which will be absorbed into the environment and used because it's chelated iron. So, yeah, exactly. Yes, and you need good compost, good things like that. Yeah. Yes. Okay.
And used it around trees and some bushes. But
The succession?
Yes. So if I were to, it needs to be used where there's actually roots that will work with it. So you don't want to do it out in the sunshine where there's just the weeds. You have to actually plant
Yep.
something and have something there, like a tree or a bush.
Yes. Yeah, because mycorrhizae, it only grows, so like it attaches itself to the roots of the plant, and then when it produces spores, it produces them in the ground to attach to roots. Like it doesn't have a mushroom structure. So like it can't live without, like it actually can't live without roots.
And I mean, you don't want to do it near one of my dandelions, and the dandelion's not going to keep, help that soil around there to be fertile, right?
Oh, well, if the dandelion associates with the mycorrhizae, it actually will help the soil improve. Like the ecological succession actually is self-selecting. Like you start building the soil fertility, and then the plants die out, and new ones come in that are higher up on the succession.
Okay, so in our yards, we're probably in charge of what succession is, right?
Yeah, yeah, they are in charge of what success. Yeah.
So you had mentioned about the raised bed with the wood underneath.
Mm-hmm.
I did that last year, and now it's full of bindweed.
Again, we got to this mode where we think we can farm one season to one season. That's wrong. It takes time.
Well, I
Yeah,
know it takes time.
it does.
I'm just trying to figure out how to live with bindweed, which is the thing you're talking about.
Right.
It's telling you something.
I know it. I'm trying to figure it out, and I wish it was edible, but.
So,
Yeah.
how much did you pay for your microscope?
I actually don't have a very expensive one. I really want to get one. So there's one that has epifluorescence. You can actually see the mycorrhizae in the root. Get one of those, but it's like $5,000.
So a group can come together and get one, like a neighborhood,
Mm-hmm.
and then they can really start learning what you should have learned in first grade.
We should be teaching this in first grade. We don't.
It's sad, but we're all been dumbified.
So I guess time's over.
So if I were to put the mycorrhizae around the bindweed, that would tell the bindweed it's not welcome?
Probably, possibly. We would have to do some testing on that one. But
I'm willing to try it.
yeah,
I'm waiting.
yeah. Well, you should try it and then let me know how it goes, because I haven't tried that yet. But my suspicion is, yeah. Well, because like the grass will associate with it, and then it will be stronger, like by 5 or 10 times more and more resilient, and it will actually start out competing the dandelion. Right. Right.
How do I live with it? How do I do something?
You give it an inch, it'll take a mile.
Well, I'm not sure how to do
It's just like kudzu. Everybody knows what kudzu is, right? You haven't been back east? Kudzu?
Taking over the whole world,
Cities?
covers things and eats things. It's like bindweed, but like leaves this big. So, but yeah, like bindweed's pretty difficult. Like you can get to the point where the bindweed's growing less and not as vigorously. Good. They should, yeah. Over time, yeah. You are introducing things. There's a lot of stuff. So, you're welcome.
All right. Thank you, Daniel.
One plug for my business, though. I do fertilizer, biological fertilizer for lawns, gardens. I can do that.
You tell me why my tree is dying? You'll have to come and see. All right, well, I thought you just till the ground and then you get a rake and you rake it out and you plant your plant. I mean, I've been doing that for years and I am getting good produce, but I'm making all kinds of mistakes, clearly. Anyway, so, well, everybody, thank you for coming. I do want to let you know that 2 weeks from today, we will have Larry Hilton here. And Larry is with Utah Precious Metals Association. He's going to be talking about Utah going back to the gold standard. This is actually a really, really big deal. Utah, that's one of the good things that Utah is doing. They're going to be talking about gold backs, what's going on with the gold and silver. It will be a very interesting evening, very educational evening. So please put that on your calendars and come. And I'll just say this. Utah Precious Metals allows you to buy silver or gold incrementally. So you can put $70 in a week or $70 a month or whatever, so that you're just slowly accumulating and having kind of a little safety net there. And if gold or silver skyrockets, like what they're saying it's going to do, then, you know, the more you have in there, the better off you'll be. So this is something that we're going to be learning about. So both. You can get the gold or you can get the gold backs. I better not say more than what I know about, because yeah, I will. But Larry Hilton is big, big, big in that he's going to all the other states, trying to get other states back to the gold standard. It's very, very interesting. So it would be a night that's definitely worth coming. And then the second Thursday in June, we are going to have a Patriot camp for adults or families. We're going to have 4 people who will come in their colonial garb, and they will present as George Washington. Becky's not here, so I can't know exactly who. Maybe Peter knows. Yeah, it'll be a fun night, and you should bring your children because it will be very educational and a fun night. So that is the second Wednesday in June. Thursday, thanks. That's why I have good people here keeping me on my toes. Second and fourth Thursdays are when we meet. That one will be the second Thursday in June. All right. Well, thank you, everybody, for coming. Thank you, Daniel.